Back to talking coasters, we got Alabama's biggest coaster enthusiast, Prime, from Primetime Rides and Primetime Link-Ups. You got your boy over here, Type X Thrills, soon to go through a rebranding. So let's go right now. We know Prime, last time you talked to us, you were telling us about your Primetime Link-Up over at Cedar Point. Tell us about that. Tell us about the energy. How did it go? How was everything?
Oh man, y'all know I had my first one at Carowinds right for Juneteenth. Man, this one was it was even bigger. It was even bigger. The energy was great. The rise was almost a walk on. Everybody came from around the country. We had coaster enthusiasts come from around the country, fly into Cleveland. They come to the prime time link up, Lake Erie, Cedar Point. Even though I was disappointed in my baby, Stevie, but you know, yeah, we need to talk about that.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad it was a success. I'm glad it seems like he had max participation. Everybody was there. I was checking it out on social media. You had some, I know you're keeping it close to the best. So, cause, we're not going to out anybody, but you guys had some exclusive perks. I saw something I don't see very often, some video of the station of Steel Vengeance. And so,
Yeah, because no phones allowed, no cameras. You know what I'm saying? So when you get that perk, you know something's up. It's a big deal.
yeah, so I saw that.
Yeah.
It makes me wish that I was there. Let's go from one Cedar Fair park to another Cedar Fair park. And so I know it's kind of a big deal on the news right now. Knott's Berry Farm had to shut down 3 hours early because of some fights, because of some teenagers. And now Knott's Berry Farm, they inputted a chaperone policy. What do you think of that?
Ooh, hey, what's the age group on the chaperone policy?
Pretty much anybody under the age of 18 has to have one adult, at least one adult present, and that the adult present is 21 years or older. So even if you're 17 and in 6 months, you have to have an adult that is 21 years of age or older that has to be with you the whole time and be reachable by phone. And this is right now. This is currently only for the weekends. And the thing is too is that one adult, so 121 a year or older, cannot chaperone more than 3 kids, as well too. So, what are your thoughts?
Oh, from a business perspective, money. Um, Teenagers are, you know, teenagers bring in the money. I mean,
I will disagree with that wholeheartedly.
you just.
Yes.
I mean, I just feel like
Okay.
I just
Teenagers.
in the money.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
If you look at what teenagers, because what do teenagers spend? And it's like they don't. They go to the park all day. They go to ride the rides. They don't buy merchandise. They don't buy they don't buy anything. The income is for the adults that are with their kids. The families are the ones that bring them in money. So from a business standpoint, I don't think from teenagers it's gonna hurt their bottom line because those teenagers already bought their gold season passes, which are $100, $120 for the year. And then so maybe they're missing out on a meal, one meal a day.
Yeah, I just figured that the teenagers go to mom and dad. Hey, I want to go, do this at the theme park. Yada yada yada. Let me get some money.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the park.
they miss out on a meal because it would be different if they were buying a ticket for the park every single time. But a lot of teenagers, they already have a season pass, and if they get the gold season pass, that doesn't include parking, so they get dropped off at the park and they're unattended. So they're not making any money on parking. And the teenagers, they're not buying any merchandise.
I can agree with that.
So
I didn't look at it like that. I can agree with that.
but what are your other thoughts on the policy?
So they're going to be randomly walking up to teenagers like security, and if they don't see an adult around, they get escorted out the park immediately. Like, how is this going to work? Because a lot of teenagers are hard headed. They're not going to like allow a security guard to touch them. They're going to be ready to fight the security guard. You know how today Today's teenagers are.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why they're having this policy, because on one of the fights you see these teenagers assaulting security guards. I think the main thing is that when you go into the park on these Fridays and Saturdays, they are gonna check your ID. And this is assumption. I haven't seen it. I know Knott's Nuts, so I'll shout out to Knott's Nuts because they actually have a blog. I haven't looked at it yet. That they went out to the first Friday with this chaperone policy in effect and this curfew in effect. They went out to experience it to see how it is. So right now I'm fully speculation, so that's on me. I should have done my research. But from what it looks like from other parks who implemented the same policy, when you go in, if they say you're a minor, hey, let me see your ID, and then what adult is with you as well too. And then when you're in the park, the adult's supposed to be with you at all times. But I know, but they're making the policy that, hey, if because I know not all adults want to ride rides. So if you want to go on, so the thing is too, this adult needs to be reachable by phone at all times as well too. So if they see you online and it's okay, hey, where's your adult? You have to be able to call the adult and be like, hey, that they're here. And I think the main thing is what they want to do is because I will say it and for me, I am pro the chaperone policy. I am sorry it had to come down to this because it really, really does suck because certain people ruin it for everybody else. But since 2020, so I could say what in SoCal Parks 2021, but since 2020, all over the theme park industry, teenagers have been running rampant and causing fights at Six Flags Over Texas, at Kings Island. Both of those parks had to shut down. Kennywood had some issues. Actually, Kennywood, they saw it. They were ahead of the curve and they said, "Hey, guess what? We're implementing this chaperone policy," and I could definitely see more parks going that way, just as a precaution. Because some parks we hear things and they don't need it, but
Yeah.
but they might just be ahead of the curve to say, "Hey, this is what we're doing." Just to be in unison so there's no confusion.
Yeah, I don't personally seen brawls at Kings Island. Like all out mayhem brawls. I done seen it at Six Flags Over Georgia too.
Yes. So all in all, I am definitely for this change. I hope that it just discourages people because they have their adult there, and unfortunately right now we're in a society where people are saying, hey, you're not my parent, I don't have to listen to you. But now we're going to hold someone else accountable, and now you can have these big groups of teenagers going by themselves because, and this is what I tell my little one because he's upset, and I tell him, I'm like, and you know this, you cannot handle your emotions, and he knows this like verbatim because he gets in fights, he goes through his outbursts and everything, and he's barely becoming a teenager. So I'm like, you can't handle your emotions because there's different things that you get mad at the drop of a hat. And I told him it's also difficult for certain adults to contain their emotions as well too. But since there's more repercussions, we are kind of trained to say, hey, and there's more things that the law could do to us to keep us in check. But unfortunately, these teenagers, I don't know what's happening, why they're getting these brawls, but they get mad, they get set off about something, they think something's not right, and now they're going for each other. But I will say, from my experience in Southern California, since 2021, since these parks reopened, it's been a pretty bad because it seems like a lot of these teenagers, they lost a whole year of socialization, and now they don't know how to do it. So then they're coming in and they're coming in lines and they're cutting people and they're pushing through, and they don't like being called out because there's times where I was at Knott's Berry Farm, I'm on Montezuma's Revenge, and a bunch of people try to cut, and I'm like, no, and they're like, what? And I'm like, no. And it was me and Little Man, and they were like, whoa, and they didn't know what to do, and they were upset, and they started talking shit, and one of them actually threw something at me.
Yeah, I experienced that at Magic Mountain.
Yeah.
I was in line for X2, and like it was a pack of them. It was like 10 of them. Excuse me. You know how they do the excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. Just going through the snake like in the line. I'm like, what the in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like just
No,
excuse me, excuse me.
and then
People letting them do it.
yeah, but all it takes for them is for that one. They run into another teenage group, and that other teenage group says no, and then it goes into a fight because that was another one. I was actually with a bunch of people. Like I was with the ambassador, Parks Pro, that was it. Sorry, Parks Bros, theme park obsession, single rider coaster, and we were getting in line for Chrisanity. And we're going through the thing, and these kids they just hopped over, and they're all hopping over and everything too, and they're trying to cut us. And I'm because they came through the exit and they were going over because you know how Chrisanity goes over, the entrance is all the way on one side, and they're coming kind of like from Riddler's. So so instead of going the way they're supposed to go, they're trying to take a shortcut. And I know they weren't trying to be malicious about it, but we're like, hey, we're in line, you could come after us, like don't hop over. But I know if we weren't, and we joke around because I say our group is no coasters for old men because you know me, the ambassador, single rider coasters, we're all over 35 years old. So if it wasn't us, that could have been a different experience. If it was some other teenager trying to tell them what to do, as well too. But I do think the other thing that this policy has to be in effect for is because unfortunately we go to the extreme because we don't want to nitpick everything. But sometimes we mind our business too much. So then people think they could do whatever they want. And then when they get challenged, they're saying, what are you doing? And I think that's the other thing too, because so if I see certain things, I call it out with them. And I don't do like an asshole. I just say, hey, unfortunately, you can't cut. Now there are exceptions. If I see a one person or two people going over there trying to catch up to a group, that's one thing. But like you said, when you have a whole mob of people,
yeah,
and especially when you have a ride like X2, you got to ride like Accelerator, Dragster, Maverick, rides that are notorious to break down. That could be the difference between you getting on the ride and you not getting on the ride.
that is true.
And that's the way I put it. So when I tell people, I'm like, hey, excuse me, unfortunately, you're not allowed to cut, and this is why. And usually, if you take time to explain it to them, I really haven't had any issues that blown over. Like they're upset, they're mad. But I don't have really any huge issues like that when you sit down and talk to them and not be an asshole about it too. But as I said, the policy is good. I hope it goes in through to other parks because that goes into my other thing about teenagers, or even I can't even just say teenagers, young adults, vandalism at parks. So I know on my Instagram and on Facebook groups, you know that Wonder Woman just opened. The queue's been open for about a week, and there's already a lot of damage to the queue.
Yeah.
So do you think that policy could help curb that if it goes out to other parks?
What I think is, I think these parks need to employ more police officers than security guards. No disrespect to security guards at all. But I just feel like the level of respect, opposed to teenagers seeing security like, whatever, have police officers, manning these parks, being around the popular rides, like actually having a police officer or two at popular rides like Wonder Woman, and it makes a teenager think twice. Because then your butt can go to jail, opposed to us, or, saying, hey, y'all stop doing that. They're going to be like, okay, whatever, forget you.
Well, unfortunately, I will say this. A lot of parks aren't lucky enough to have police officers at the park. But even, what do you think of mixture? Because I know I go to these parks, and even the security guards that we see, I feel like sometimes we don't see enough of them, especially like you're saying, especially in line for these rides too. So do you think even more security guards and better trained security guards? Because I know because I know we see security guards that yellow shirts can't really do anything, but then you see like the other security guards that they're actually armed up and doing that too. So do you think even more of those security guards in conjunction with police officers? Because I know at Magic Mountain that they actually have the sheriff department, that they actually have a satellite station at the park, and then they have these armed security guards as well too. So do you think? Do you think a mixture of both of those would help deter?
I mean, a mixture of both, yeah. But I mean, just legally,
Mm,
it's a whole lot of things that a police officer that's employed by the state
mm-hmm.
that has, they they can do more than a security guard can.
Yeah.
Or it's like putting your hands on people, you know, saying like, "Hey, you can't do that."
Mm.
Actually, enforcing rules, regulations, policy, laws is more things a police officer can do than a
Yeah.
security.
I
Can.
totally understand that, but then I'm going on the other end where if there's a lot of these places that even if they ask for police officers to be there and patrol the park, they're not going to send them enough police officers. Or so I'm trying to think of something else the park could do as well too, because I know because the parks with their security, if they're trained correctly and they do everything, they can't escort you off the property. And I think sometimes that's just the biggest deterrent, because I see it on roller coaster rides. The easiest way to have people stop bring out their phones on the rides is when you see it, stop the lift hill, go up and take off and take their phone.
That's true. Or how about building the queue line differently? I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but how about set the queue line up to where it's not skip friendly?
Well, no, I'm not talking about skip friendly, because right now I'm in the whole thing of vandalism right now too, and that's what I'm saying, because Wonder Woman it's like that queue line's getting vandalized. We see other rides, and I could say, because unfortunately we like, unless somehow you change, and like you said, they design it differently so people can't climb over these bars to go where they want to go, which is unfortunately that's what people are doing, because the same thing happened with Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain, the same one too, because Goliath, it was a beautifully themed queue that had a lot of bamboo, because it's supposed to be themed to the jungle, so they had a lot of bamboo on off to the side of the queue line. So there's a lot of shade. The bamboo looks cool. It looks exotic, and it fit the theme of the ride, because when you go in there, you see the big giant Goliath letters and everything, and then you see like the statue with the foot in there. Well, what happened is people, they were hopping over, and guess what? Bamboo is sharp when it breaks, so people, they're breaking bamboo and cutting themselves, because people, they just can't stay in line. So that's what I'm saying. So do you think even just more presence of security? And I think you had a good idea, because a lot of times the security personnel and security guards, whether they're armed, unarmed, anything like that, you hardly ever see them in the lines. So do you, like you said, if you see them patrolling, and they don't have to be there the whole time, but if you see them patrolling more and more, do you think that would be a better deterrent?
Maybe, but I just know, from doing a profession, like when I see a police officer, I think twice before I do something opposed to seeing a security guard.
No, I get that, but I'm saying because right now people, they're not seeing any.
Well, that's the issue.
So no, because I say because they're in
Yeah,
the park. They're like,
officer presence matter. Officer presence matter, whether it's security or police.
yeah.
Officer matter. It matters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying that even if they start just patrolling the lines.
It'll help.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yep. I agree.
All
It'll
right.
help. They got the money. Put them out. They got the money.
Mhm.
Put the job online. Get them out there. They got the money. Officer presence matter.
All right. So I guess now on to this third and final subject. Are you ready for this? We are
I'm ready.
here talking about. So we're gonna go segue back over to your primetime meetup. So you got to ride your number one ride. How was it?
You messy. Why you gotta be so messy? Type X thrills. I rode Gwazi. Let's go back to the beginning of the year. So I got a whole lot of rides on Gwazi at the beginning of the year, like when it opened all the way up to now. A whole lot of rides on Gwazi. But I still defended my baby, Steel Vengeance, no matter what, because it's always been my number one coaster, right? So I was like, man, I gotta go get some rides on Stevie. I gotta go get some more rides on Stevie. I've been giving Gwazi all these rides, all this love time and stuff. I mean, I was like, I gotta go back to my baby. So I went to Cedar Point, got on Stevie, front row and back row. and went down the first drop. And when I went down the first drop, I was like, this don't feel the same. Like this don't feel the same. This ain't right. But the outer bank was still good. The second outer bank, it was still good. You're standing up out your seat.
Good, good.
But yeah, the speed and the pacing on Stevie, it don't feel the same. After you ride Gwazi, Stevie does not feel the same. I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. I
It's
mean,
Gwazi's a
Gwazi,
superior coaster. That's what it is.
yeah, yeah, man. So I was disappointed when I got off Stevie. I cried. I gave Stevie. I went to the sign and I hugged the sign and gave it a farewell hug. Like I love you, but you're no longer my number one coaster.
Ooh.
You know, so I had to hug you know, I had to hug Stevie and say, man, I'm sorry. I'm
So
sorry. You're not aggressive enough for me anymore.
so this so is this the official beginning of the Iron Gwazi apology tour?
Yeah, I got a lot of friends to apologize to. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, because when Gwazi came out and they was like, man, Gwazi better than Stevie. Gwazi better than Stevie. I was like, F you. Stevie is the GOAT. Like nothing would never be better than Stevie. And I got into all typing wars, you know, with my friends and associates and other coaster enthusiasts that that Stevie's always going to be, more superior. And I just thought that based on because it's a longer ride, but I was wrong. I was wrong, man. Stevie, yeah, after riding Gwazi, then going back ride Stevie is, yeah, man, it's not it. It's not that dude anymore. So I'm sorry if I got into it with you on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. I'm sorry. I can't go back and write everybody, but I apologize. Primetime Rise is sorry. Iron Gwazi is my number one coaster. Steel Vengeance is like number 3 or 4 now, or whatever. I don't know. It's what
Oh man, it dropped like it was hot.
drop it like it's hot. Drop it like so. Hey, I had to wear my hat in remembrance of Stevie. I got to put it in the grave.
I learned at a very young age, at 2001, when California Screaming came out, that length isn't everything, because California Screaming at the time when it came out was one of the longest coasters in the world. It's over 6,000 feet of track, and it's a long ride, and it's a fun ride, but it's not the best ride.
It's
And
not the best.
length matters in certain aspects, but not always in roller coasters.
Yeah, I had to learn the hard way.
Oh,
So I apologize. Gwazi is that dude. Steve ain't that dude no more.
ooh,
If I got into it with you, I'm sorry. I admit, I'm sorry.